covered in today's China Truths.
Finding a job this year feels less like job hunting and more like surviving a regional disaster. It's been over a month since Citi laid me off, and my colleagues and I are still stuck. Almost no interviews, no real opportunities. I'm a 2024 graduate, and in just half a year, I've already changed jobs 11 times, 5 times this year alone. 4 of those weren't even my choice. Companies either relocated or collapsed overnight. Everyone keeps saying the economy is bad, but no one warned me it was this rotten. Does anyone else feel this hopeless? Jobs are vanishing, unemployment is exploding, and instead of recovery, companies are starting new waves of layoffs. Foreign capital is fleeing, efficiency is collapsing, and we're left scrambling to survive. Ordinary people are sinking into misery, yet we don't even qualify for sympathy. Those who dared to speak for us have been silenced. Western firms have been kicked out. Factories are filled with idle machines, once worth millions now gathering dust, soon to be scrap metal. Why build so many advanced tools if no one can afford to use them? To earn 4,000 to 5,000 yuan in a factory, you're forced into 12-hour shifts, 2 shifts a day, and worst of all, people actually accept it. It's finished. Completely finished. Construction sites are shutting down overnight. Giant projects stand frozen in silence. Last night in Wuhan, workers were suddenly told, "Stop everything tomorrow." Even 5-star hotels and famous restaurants are going dark. Some factories pay barely 3,000 yuan a month. What's the point of breaking your back for that? If this keeps up, universities might as well only offer 4 majors: delivery boy, live streamer, customer service, and exam prep. That's all the future has left. Walk down Jiefang Road in Yanhu District, Shanxi, and you'll see endless signs. For rent, for rent, for rent. Rows of empty houses, no tenants in sight. Business is suffocating. In the elevator, out of 5 people, 4 wear delivery uniforms. Even on trains, lunchboxes have fallen back to the price of 30 years ago. 10 yuan for rice, meat, vegetables, even eggs. A 10 yuan meal on a train. Who would believe it? Today, a beauty salon in my neighborhood closed for good. Everything inside was stripped bare. Running a salon now isn't about hard work anymore. It's about watching your effort dissolve into nothing. No matter how much you grind, you simply can't make money. This isn't a downturn. It feels like the end. In our county, every street is plastered with for transfer signs, supermarkets, clothing stores, shops of every kind. This year, the retail market isn't just bleak, it's utterly devastated. Overnight, streets went silent. Stores vanished one after another, as if the entire marketplace collapsed in a single breath. Can you sleep at night? Because I can't. No customers, yet I still have to raise kids, pay off loans, and cover rent. Every breath costs money, but making money has become impossible. If no one is earning, then who is taking it all? By 2025, Communist China's economy has rotted to the core. Industries are collapsing, unemployment is everywhere, and misery has become the national soundtrack. Factories are shutting down, shops are closing, foreign capital is fleeing, and the forced social security scheme only squeezes people harder. Public anger is boiling over. The so-called Chinese miracle has been exposed as nothing more than decades of borrowed time, built on Western capital, Taiwan, and Hong Kong investment, and the relentless labor of ordinary Chinese people. That lifeline has now been cut. The regime is staggering toward collapse. At the bottom of society, ordinary people are gasping for air. They can't afford medical bills, can't afford funerals, can't afford houses, can't afford marriages, can't afford to raise kids. Teachers are going unpaid, housing funds have stopped, and even civil servants are missing paychecks. The entire system has run out of money. Reality strikes hardest when you lose your job or see your income slashed. Suddenly, you realize all the government promises, Social Security, pensions, raise children to support you in old age, were nothing but illusions. After years of study, after a university degree, you're left with nothing. Some jobs pay so little you'd be better off herding sheep in the countryside. Even elite graduates aren't spared. A friend with a master's degree joined a state-owned firm in Yunnan. His first paycheck? 3,500 yuan. My own was barely over 3,000. 7 years at a 211 university, bachelor's and master's in a double first-class program, 200,000 yuan spent on tuition, and now I'm running a street stall. Yes, I'm good at route optimization thanks to my research, so at least my education is being used. But let's be honest, this is humiliation, not opportunity. Look downstairs at the trash bins. People rummage through them daily. At first, it was only the elderly collecting cardboard and bottles. Now, even young parents bring their children to dig through the garbage. This is not a personal failing. This is society collapsing. Mothers with no jobs and no income are left with no choice but to scavenge to survive. Yet we are still told to buy houses and have more children. How? If the elderly can't be supported, if fair education is gone, if survival itself is at risk, who dares to bring a child into this world? Look around the ruins, broken machinery from collapsed factories, chemical, pharmaceutical, food, beverage equipment, worth millions, now scrap metal. Behind each failure are countless ruined families. Only 1% of businesses profit, while the rest bleed to death. Right now, I sit in my clothing shop with no customers. Step outside, see for yourself. The streets are empty, completely empty. The economy today isn't just declining, it's mutating, deformed. Want proof? Look at the celebrities who once ruled the screen. They're now live streaming to sell goods. Not acting, not creating, just selling. And the fact that ordinary people spend their last bit of money on these streams, that's not entertainment, that's tragedy. This is not a slowdown, this is collapse. Once upon a time, celebrities flaunted their wealth and untouchable lifestyles. Today, those same glamorous sisters have stepped down into the same bowl of rice as us. These aren't washed-up stars. Many still shine on stage. Yet even they are abandoning their luxury personas to fight for survival. If celebrities with fame and fans are forced to live stream and sell goods, what hope is left for ordinary people? I don't pity the stars, I pity us. If even they are struggling like this, how much harder is life for teachers, workers, graduates, or even PhDs who can't find a single job? Big stars or common folk, no one escapes. As money becomes harder to earn, people spend less, businesses collapse, and the economy sinks deeper into depression. Mortgages go unpaid, families are labeled discredited, and some can't even afford their next meal. Survival itself has become a crisis. Mr. Lin from Fuzhou told me, "So many companies have gone bankrupt. My friends are jobless. Most have returned to their hometowns to lie flat. Some tried driving for Didi, but even that doesn't bring in money anymore. I know people who can't even afford food." In Dongguan, the so-called cement pavilion is now a desperate shelter. Homeless migrant workers live there because rent is impossible. Men, women, even young women sleep in this open-air ruin. Garbage piles up, strangers wander in, no doors, no safety. They leave only when a job appears. Until then, this dangerous place is home. And what about us, the educated elites? I am a postgraduate. 7 years in a 211 university, bachelor's and master's degrees, over 200,000 yuan spent. My major was double first class. My master's research was in transport optimization. For what? My first paycheck barely crossed 3,000 yuan. Delivery workers earn more. Today I sell clothes on the street. Yes, my research and route optimization helps me pick good stall locations. At least my degree wasn't completely useless. But is this really what I studied for? Walk around and look. Trash bins downstairs have become the busiest places in town. Elderly scavengers at first, but now even parents bring their children to dig for bottles and cardboard. This is no longer an individual's shame, it's society collapsing before our eyes. Meanwhile, we are told to buy houses and have children. But if even the elderly can't be supported, if fair education is gone, if mothers dig through trash to feed their kids, who dares to have children? Factories stand silent. Machines worth millions rot in the open, turning into scrap metal. Behind every shuttered factory are shattered families. Only 1% of businesses make money, while the rest are crushed. Even my clothing shop, completely empty. Step outside with me. No customers, not a single soul. Streets once alive are now cemeteries of commerce. This isn't just decline. This is mutation, deformation. Proof? Female celebrities who once lit up screens now beg viewers to buy products in live streams. And the saddest part? People spend their last yuan on these streams, fueling an economy that has lost all dignity. China's economy is now caught in a deep and undeniable downturn. The collapse of real estate giants, rising unemployment, shrinking private investment, and failing local governments all point to an economy that has lost its momentum. Once hailed as the engine of global growth, China is now weighed down by debt, distrust, and disillusionment among its people. Small businesses are closing, young graduates are left hopeless, and ordinary families are tightening their belts as costs rise and incomes fall. International confidence is also fading, with foreign companies pulling out and global investors retreating. The promise of recovery feels distant as government policies struggle to address the root causes of the crisis. In every sector, the signs are clear. China's economic decline is no longer just a phase, but an irreversible and lasting reality. China's factories are shutting down one after another at a speed the world has never seen before. Waves of bankruptcies, unpaid wages, and mass layoffs have left tens of thousands of workers suddenly with nothing. Protests are erupting city after city, and the myth of stability is collapsing right before everyone's eyes. For decades, China's factories were a source of national pride, known as the world's factory. From cheap textiles to advanced electronics, production lines ran day and night, lifting tens of millions out of poverty and fueling China's rapid rise. Migrant workers poured into industrial cities believing that, as long as you work in a factory, you can secure a stable life. That story is now over. Global demand has collapsed. Foreign companies are moving supply chains to other countries. And Chinese households are drowning in debt with no room left to spend. Factories that once expanded endlessly on cheap credit are now buried under mountains of unpayable debt. When financing stops, production stops, and bankruptcy filings surge. Former industrial zones now resemble ghost towns. The human cost is immeasurable. Workers arrive to find factory gates locked, machines abandoned, and management nowhere to be seen. Some have gone months without pay. Others are fired overnight with no notice and no severance. Anger is spreading. From Guangdong to Henan, strikes, sit-ins, and road blockades are breaking out one after another. Families that once trusted the system now feel betrayed and are struggling with hunger. The government fears unrest and is scrambling to contain the situation. Videos of protests are deleted from the internet within hours. Officials urge people to be patient, but patience cannot feed children or pay rent. Beneath the censorship, anger only grows stronger. Local governments try to use emergency funds to cover part of the unpaid wages, but it is like pouring a cup of water onto a raging fire. Guangdong Province, once the heart of China's export empire, has become a focal point of chaos. At one electronics factory, thousands of workers staged a sit-in over unpaid wages and clashed with police. In Henan, garment workers lined sewing machines across roads to block traffic and voice their demands. In Zhejiang, shoemakers protested outside shuttered factories, openly declaring that they had been discarded. The collapse does not stop with workers. Small subcontractors dependent on major factories are falling one after another, dragging entire villages down with them. Truck drivers lose their jobs, port activity declines, dormitories empty out, and migrant workers return to their hometowns with a sense of defeat. An industry that once powered China's economy is grinding to a halt, threatening not only jobs but social stability itself. From the world's factory to nationwide turmoil, China's factory collapse is no longer a hidden story. It is unfolding in real time, and the world is watching. The devastation is etched on people's faces. Migrant workers who once sent money home with pride are now returning empty-handed. Families burdened with heavy debt for mortgages and education can no longer repay and face the threat of foreclosure. In rural areas, parents who relied on remittances are being abandoned, pushing already poor communities into deeper despair. That despair is now on the verge of exploding. In Sichuan, workers angered by factory closures and months of unpaid wages went on strike. Riot police were deployed, and violent clashes erupted in the streets. In Jiangsu, workers stormed company headquarters, overturned desks, scattered documents, and seized records to prevent management from fleeing. Every protest is quickly suppressed, but each month the crowds grow larger and angrier. What Beijing fears most is clear: a chain reaction of worker uprisings spreading from local areas to the entire country. Meanwhile, the government is desperate to preserve the image of control. State media speaks of new opportunities, promoting green technology, digital industries, and retraining programs. But to tens of thousands who cannot pay rent or feed their children, those promises sound hollow and unreachable. The reality is simple. The industrial core that once provided the largest source of employment in China is collapsing faster than new industries can replace it. What we are witnessing is unprecedented. The very factories that supported China's rise have become centers of anger and chaos. Workers who once labored in silence are now blocking roads, holding banners, and marching for accountability. Factory closures are not just an economic loss. They are a social earthquake shaking the foundations of the illusion once called the Chinese dream. For hundreds of millions of workers, that dream has turned into a nightmare of debt, betrayal, and broken promises. This is not a temporary downturn. Debt, collapsing demand, and rigid political control have fused into a structural breakdown. 3 factors stand out. First is a debt-dependent growth model. Second is the sharp global drop in demand. Third is policy that prioritizes political loyalty over real reform. For decades, cheap loans from state banks fueled endless factory expansion. Local governments handed out subsidies to boost GDP, valuing scale over sustainability. That system only worked as long as the world kept buying. Now the bill has come due. Interest payments exceed revenues, and thousands of factories are sinking under unpayable debt. Bankruptcies are not accidents. They are the inevitable result of chasing scale over stability. The second factor lies abroad. The world no longer consumes Chinese goods the way it once did. Inflation, recession, and tighter wallets in Europe and the United States have slashed orders. At the same time, global brands are shifting production to Vietnam, India, Mexico, and elsewhere to reduce dependence. As a result, Chinese factories are left with warehouses full of unsold goods and no buyers. Domestic demand is equally weak. Households crushed by mortgages and job insecurity have sharply cut spending. There are now too many factories and too few orders. The result is brutal: shuttered plants, abandoned dormitories, and the collapse of a dream that once symbolized China's growth. The roots of this collapse are not accidental missteps. They are the result of choices made in Beijing. Under Xi Jinping, loyalty has been prioritized over innovation. Instead of supporting private enterprise, policies clipped its wings and suppressed industries that could have created hundreds of millions of jobs. Zero-COVID policies strangled supply chains, killing countless small factories under extreme restrictions. Even today, instead of rescue measures, Beijing chooses to hide the truth, censor bankruptcies, and watch factories quietly die. This obsession with control has erased any room for flexible reform. There is no genuine debt restructuring, no real safety net, and no transparency. The result is a vicious cycle: factories crushed by debt, buyers fleeing abroad, workers losing jobs, and a government that continues to deny reality. What we are seeing is not merely factory closures. It is the collapse of a system that promised stability in exchange for sacrifice. Now, all that system delivers is unemployment, hunger, and despair. Behind locked factory gates lie human tragedies: Families are torn apart, savings vanish, and towns turn into ghost cities. Tens of thousands of workers go months without pay, sinking deeper into debt. Parents return to the countryside, and grandparents are forced back to work. The economic crisis has become a human catastrophe. Anger is erupting. Workers block roads, occupy factories, and demand wages from the government. But local governments are out of money, and police suppress protests by force. Videos are quickly censored, leaving Unrest as the only remaining voice of workers. Migrant workers live in dark dormitories, rely on food handouts, and sleep in train stations. The dream of sending money home is gone. Survival is all that remains. Mental exhaustion has reached its limit. The collapse is spreading across entire regions. Restaurants, shops, and schools shut down one after another. The property market crumbles, families flee, and industrial cities become hollow ghost towns. The dreams of a generation are being shattered. Young people lose hope and face poverty. This is no longer just an economic problem. Society itself is fracturing, and China's stability is shaking. The government insists the crisis is temporary, but on the ground, the cracks only keep spreading. Every protest and every censored video exposes the fragility of the so-called Chinese dream.